right. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. I suppose we have on the East Coast across the meridian. And welcome to Start, Grow, Manage. I'm Jeff Lair, and we help MSPs grow efficiently, effectively, and create scalable businesses. And I am super excited to be chatting with Mark Agovino today. He's got 20 years helping companies hire, so some really good experience there, some great experiences with what works and what doesn't work that we'll get into. He's looked at both technical, non-technical hires, mostly working with MSPs, and up until recently has been using the traditional recruiting model, but has actually developed a new way to recruit for MSPs that actually fits directly into the MSP model. And he's going to tell us a little bit about that. So Mark Agovino, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jeff. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to have you here. So this is exciting. So, we like to always start with what is the problem? What is the problem that you solve for MSPs?
So I think that MSPs are great at keeping up with the technology and helping their customers. Hiring for those teams just is a bit of a challenge, right? So
we can call it a pain in the backside. I think it is. I think hiring in general is a challenge, right?
It is tough.
It is hard.
And we know from statistics that hiring better people has a direct correlation to the success of a company, especially very customer centric, companies like MSPs.
Yeah. So you're really focused on helping MSPs get the right hires and shortcut that very painful hiring process, right?
Yeah, it's really, how do you attract the right people? How do you define what is going to make them successful? And screen and kind of interview for that. And how do you bring them over the finish line and set them up to be successful within the organization, so that 6 months later you're not trying to refill that same position?
Yeah, that makes sense. So why the shift? And we'll talk about what the shift is. So you've gone from traditional to sort of a managed service approach, which I purposely didn't ask you about before this, because I want to hear. It's like, for whatever reason, it's usually best the first time somebody says it. So if we ask in the pre-show and then you come on the show, then it's never as good. So explain to all of us, me included, how your new model works and why the shift away from the traditional.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's two reasons, right? So one is, kind of pedestrian, and it basically is just that, margins get a little tighter, and, and companies, traditional recruiters charge a lot of money, it's 20% or more.
That's a huge burden for a lot of MSPs, is paying that recruiting fee.
Yeah. I mean, not only are you increasing your cost to add payroll, but now you're also having to pay that fee. Yeah. So that's one reason. But the other reason is that over my years of experience with this, I have probably run into 30 to 40% of the times when working with a company that way, the company ends up shooting themselves in the foot with, losing out on a good candidate, a great candidate, or, they decline an offer or something, because the process didn't support them properly, whether it was, and I'm like, look, I'm giving advice anyway to most of my clients, trying to help them understand how to do this better, formalizing it and kind of baking it into the system just seemed to make more sense.
So is the way that it works now that you have you're just paying a monthly fee to you, so that you're managing all recruiting or managing the HR? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so it's like an outsourced recruiting manager or a fractional talent acquisition team. But yeah, it's a flat monthly, no flat monthly charge, no term commitment. And usually good for helping companies hire one or two positions at a time. There's
Yeah.
coaching component that gives the value of the expertise to help them understand how to get better at the whole arc of attracting and evaluating. And then there's the nuts and bolts of job descriptions, posting jobs, interviewing candidates, managing the process, reporting on KPIs, that
Yeah. And that's the part that you're taking on for that managed service part.
yeah, we take that whole part on.
And I
Really
think it is, you know, it's I think a good way to think about delivering services to managed services. One of the things that we talk about a lot in our program is identifying the problem that your client has, figuring out how to deliver your service in a way that works for them.
Mhm.
And if you think of some clients, you're going to charge per seat. Some of them you charge per site. Some of them you're going to charge per operatory. Some of them you're going to charge per machine. There are different ways that MSPs approach their clients and their clients' business. And I think it makes a lot of sense for somebody who's really working with MSPs and trying to meet their needs to look at their client's business, the MSP business, as being a monthly recurring revenue business, and taking, instead of big lump sum payments, turning that into a monthly recurring charge that they can easily plan and work with. And that sounds like it would really improve the finances for the MSP's cash flow and understanding and planning and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think so. Aligning those two things makes sense, right? And ultimately, just like, a managed services provider understands the client and then tries to figure out, like, okay, how can we fix your specific problem?
Yeah.
What we do tends to be pretty customized as well.
Yeah.
Some are good at portions of, recruiting. They may have a great process, an interview process, and have the right focus on culture maybe, or whatever, but they need help in other areas. And
So
so,
let's talk a little bit about the process, because here's one of the questions that comes up a lot in our program is, how do I hire and recruit a team? Like we talked about before, it's a pain in the neck to hire. And then you hire somebody and it doesn't work out, and then you have to do it again, and then you're trying to build a team, but people are coming and going, and you can't get that consistency. So what does it take, Mark? What do we have to do to attract the right people and retain them?
right. I think it's a two-part kind of answer, right? So one is really understand what the people are going to be doing in their position
Mm-hmm.
and how you're going to measure them, right? And I think Start, Grow, Manage has a pretty good structure for understanding the roles that are required
Yeah.
within a successful MSP, right? So understand what's going to make them successful. And that also includes the personality types that you're trying to build in
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah.
a company, right? So, are these hyper analytical people? Are they, fun, go out on a Friday night kind of people? Like what's the culture you're trying to bring? And then you really do need to design the questions you ask, the interview styles and things like that to really uncover those success factors, if you will.
Yeah.
Right. And most people look at it and go, they when they interview, they spend too much time on the surface and just say, well, they had a similar job at a similar company. Let me see if I like them, and then, or they spend all their time on a technical test and not understanding the functional, can they think outside the box? Can they, handle that curveball question?
So how important is culture? How important is understanding your own culture and integrating the person you're recruiting into that culture, or identifying the culture into them? Do you think that's an important component?
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, I think it's very important. It's funny because I don't know that companies are so vastly different in their culture that, that it has to be too difficult to kind of identify your culture. Most companies we talk to, teamwork is important, customer service is important, and and stuff like that. But
it seems like you brought up as well. Are you the going out Friday night type, or the staying in Friday night type? Is this the work hard, play hard type of environment, or is it is it a go home to your family type of environment? It just seems that those types of things would be important to mesh with with the people you're recruiting.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think anytime you're in an IT space, there tends to be, more of that analytical problem solving. That's where the subtleties come in, right? So is it about solving hard problems? Is it about, making customers and employees feel like they're part of something? Those are subtle differences, but you can screen for that, and you can find people that match.
So just through asking questions.
Yeah, mostly it's behavioral interviewing questions that are open-ended, and they're designed to specifically draw out information and insights into, for example, somebody's troubleshooting and resilience in solving problems. One example, right?
So is it? We were talking a couple of episodes ago about the importance of identifying core values and being sure to interview for core values. Is that something that you look at as well?
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, certain things like honesty, reliability, willingness to help others. I mean, those things, and that's part of that kind of initial interview process that we do with our customers, is really dig through and understand people who have been successful within the organization, or the company founders. What values did they hold? And we try to identify them, and then align beyond that.
I think that's crucial. It's one thing that we've certainly found in our work is that if you don't know, if you're just hiring for technical skills, if you're just hiring for the job, and you bring somebody in who just isn't a fit for whatever reason, they are the I want to go out with my team all the time, and the team is I want to stay home with the family all the time. Or if it's an eat what you kill kind of environment versus a collaborative environment, and you get the wrong kind of person in there, I think in our experience that creates a lot of problems, and it's almost better to prioritize that fit over making sure they have technical skills, just because it seems like fit is so hard to train. It's like people are who they are, and so trying to train values or train fit into somebody is a lot harder than teaching them technical skills, don't you think?
Without a doubt. And that's usually one of the disconnects that I see, is that companies may hire for the technical skills and don't look at the soft skills enough, whether it's an ability to learn or the cultural fit, when it really should be the opposite. Almost every client I end up working with tells me about their favorite hire from early on. They were a referral from somebody's brother, and the person came in, they didn't have any experience, but they're literally the top tech right now. And like, how did that happen? It happened because they had the right personality and they had the ability to learn, and they just were a sponge. They just soaked up every bit of technical information they could, but without the core being a good person, it would never have worked.
Yeah, that's interesting because the brother-in-law actually knows what your culture is. The brother-in-law might have no idea the problem you solve or how you work, but he's thinking, oh, wait, this guy would be a good fit. Like, you guys would get along great. And then you bring that person in. You're like, oh yeah, we're gonna get along great. Can you learn? Yeah. Can you do technical stuff? Yeah. And I'm happy to do it. And you have that moment of meshing, and you're like, okay, we're gonna go on. And then somehow later on, we want to be so business-like about it. Okay, now we're not gonna talk about who you are. We're gonna talk about what you do, and we're going to get official now, and so we're going to have a completely different conversation, and then you don't have that same cultural connection.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, you get more professional and business-like about it. You're like, we need somebody, as opposed to hiring for the person.
And you were talking before we started about one of your great successes, hiring somebody who just became crucial to the company, and I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that.
No, I love that always makes me feel best about what I do for a living. I've got an example, a client here on Long Island. I had helped them hire a Microsoft expert, right? It's a managed services provider that's been around for 40 years. They brought somebody in as a Microsoft expert about 5 years ago. And this year they just got promoted to managing the whole tech services team. So they run all the delivery. And I love the fact that not only is he still there, but he's thriving and he's a key part of the team. And they've found the ability to, he's become a leader, which is awesome.
And what was key there? Was it that cultural fit, and is that what they were looking for? And why did he stay? How did they create a program to retain him and develop him? Do you have any insights on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there were two things. One is that he was looking for an opportunity where he could be challenged technically and grow. They are they're a company that has a culture of giving people as much kind of rope as they want, right? Like, hey, if you show that, so it was a good match in there. Yeah, if you show that you're like, look, I've got some ideas. I want to do things. They'll give you that opportunity as long as you could take it. And we knew that going in, so it was a good fit from that perspective.
Yeah, no, that sounds.
He wasn't hired with the idea that he'd be in this role, but really, who knows, right? 5 years from now, nobody can predict. So you create the potential for those things.
No, that's good. I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot here, just thinking about it. If we were to say to anybody who's listening and thinking about how to recruit and build their team, what could we come up with for like the top 3 things that you have to do as an MSP? You're sitting here figuring it out, and you know that you have to take some steps to set up the culture or set up the environment to hire people. What are like the 3 things that they should be thinking
about? I'd say, so probably number 1 is know yourself and your mission, right? Yeah. So at one of your events not long ago, I think I met somebody who's starting an MSP, they're building an MSP, and they want to be the MSP of choice for dermatologists.
Yeah.
helping dermatologists get the most out of their technology. And I just thought that was awesome because there's an easy message, right? There's a mission, here's what we're doing to help our client base. And that's huge, both for motivating employees and for attracting employees, right? So that's one thing. Second of all, I think what we talked about is understanding the skills that are going to make somebody successful in that role, which requires you to define what you need. And once you know what you're looking for and what you're going to tell them, then it's a matter of really just, kind of just reaching out, finding those people, talking to them. Spend more than 15 minutes talking to people. You'll learn a lot. You'll hear things that will resonate, and then things that sound weird. Dig into those things that sound weird. Trust your instincts on those.
Yeah, we tend to gloss over those things, don't we? And just ignore the fact that something sounds a bit off.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd say those are the important,
the top issues. Good. Yeah. So tell me, what is the key reason that your model really works?
I think again, it resonates with the market. It's a partner, not a vendor. We give them a capability that they don't have internally right now. And and the idea of aligning their the costs too. I think those two things are super important.
Well, and I think there's a bit more. We were talking about this earlier, that you're sort of good at the things that you're good at, right? And you mentioned the fact that MSPs tend to start, and they do hire the people around them, and they're working with the network and all of the people that they know. And I think the brother-in-law example highlights why that works, because people know you, and people are bringing in the people who are going to work with you, and there's that human connection already. But then when we go out and now we're expanding beyond our universe, it's a whole new set of skills, right? So now it's we have to develop all of those team building skills, and we have to develop a lot of those business skills, and I think having someone around who can help you develop that and be that voice, because your value is that thing that I might not be good at, and having that voice to come into your business can be a very valuable tool.
Well, the analogy is, as an MSP, your client is an accounting firm. Well, when there are two accountants in an office, maybe they set their own computers up.
Yeah.
Right. And they've got a printer. It's really simple. But at some point they grow to now they can't handle their own IT. Right. And so you get a choice. You either bring in hire an IT person internally, or you go to an MSP, right? Or something like that. And so that MSP brings in expertise and knowledge. They help the company bridge the gap and grow and expand their capabilities. That's what we want to do for that small to mid-sized growing company that isn't at the point of having a big talent acquisition team yet, but they've grown beyond where the founders are able to kind of pull in people that they know.
Yeah. No, I think that's brilliant. It's bridging that gap. And we see that as well with everything that we do, because our focus is on bringing that business skill to the technical skill. So the technicians are great at doing the technical work, and you can get those first few clients through your network and do that technical work. And then you have to start really thinking about, all right, what are the business skills that I need? How do I structure this as an ongoing business? How do I focus on it as a business rather than just doing the technical work? And so it's that same sort of approach, and that's really the entrepreneurial journey. It's understanding that you're good at something. How do you take that thing that you're good at and solve a problem for somebody, and then bring in the resources that you need to help? And I guess I like that subscription model, because it does mean that you're there over time, rather than just coming in and charging a fortune for one hire,
Yep. Yep. And we get to know our clients. My longest client relationship that I have now extends back from before when I even started my first company.
Yeah.
So I've been helping them hire for 20 years now.
Yeah.
And they've gone from 110 people in a regional provider to a global force of 900 employees. And I've acquired 7 different companies.
Goodness.
But we've found ways to help them along the way for 20 years.
That's great. That's great. So if somebody wanted to get started with you, where do they go?
You could go to the website. It's OnBoard TAC, TAC, Talent Acquisition Consulting. You can schedule a meeting right there on the top of the webpage, and
awesome.
We'll talk about how we can help. No obligations, no pressure.
Sounds like a plan. Well, and we have, I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning, huh, Carla? But we have a program coming up next week, our SWOT workshop. What we've discovered is that having conversations with clients that are not technical conversations is essential to growing MSP. So when you go in and have a QBR or TBR, what we call an SBR, because we've got to be different. But when you go in and you're talking about their needs and how they can grow their business, there tends to be a lot more interest, and you come out of that with a lot more money in your pocket. So one of the questions that's come up is, well, how do I do that? And so we're putting together a workshop, having it on the 15th, teaching MSPs how to use the SWOT analysis template, so strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, to understand their clients and build that inquisitive muscle so that they are able to continuously have these conversations, continuously build value with their clients, and get into that realm of trusted advisor, so that they grow and they need to hire more people. Mark, that's our intention here. So we had the link on the screen there, so come join us at the SWOT workshop, and we'd love to have you there. And here's Mark's contact information on LinkedIn. And Mark, it has been a pleasure speaking with you. I'm excited about what you're doing, and excited about how that can improve the lives of MSPs. So any parting words? No,
I just thanks for the opportunity to come in and talk and meet with you again. I've always been a fan of your training days and other things that you do for MSP. So great. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks for coming. So on that, have an amazing week, everybody. Go have great conversations with your clients. Think a little bit about how you're going to recruit people, and we'll see you next time here at Start, Grow, Manage.
Thanks for joining us, and a special thanks to our subscribers. Consider becoming one right now and tap into our insights and instincts to help drive your business vision and success. Remember, you didn't start your business to feel frustration. You started it for freedom. We can help you discover the impact, freedom, and wealth you always imagined. Learn more at startgrowmanage.com/learn more.